Hello, Moon to Moon. Welcome if this is your first ever episode. If you're returning, it's wonderful to be with you again. I'm Britten LaRue, and this is a Dark Moon download. If you're new to Dark Moon downloads, the the premise is that the very end of a lunar cycle, which lasts about 28 days, in the days before, like the 3, 4 days before we have a new moon. We're coming up here on our new moon in Taurus on Saturday. We are at the end of a band of time, which is a lunar cycle. And in this band of time, we can now locate a kind of curriculum that we've been on since the previous new moon. You're able to notice all the things that have been coming up, the repeated words, the repeated themes, types of confrontations, types of changes, types of frustrations, types of question marks, types of delights and the miraculous that have been moving through your life here since April 17th, 2026. You can listen to this any year though, because the dark moon downloads tend to hold like big wisdom drops that are going to be collective, that they're moving through me in a kind of personal way that is collective. I don't know how to explain that. But um, I started doing these when Moon to Moon was about a year old, spring of 2021. Yep. My first ever Dark Moon download was in May, I believe, and it was on the Emergent No, which is a teaching that I still do. And if you caught the Scopes Unshamed for May, I talk about the Emergent No with everybody by rising sign there as to how it will show up for you. So if you haven't caught Scopes Unshamed in YouTube for May, please go check out my channel there. I will hope to remember to put it in the show notes. So, what I found to be true is that at the end of these lunar cycles where I've been really paying attention, I am a sincere student of my life, and I I like to look at bands of time to dilate, to understand the wisdom that's coming through per cycle. And I'm not alone in this, of course. It's a powerful way to live that I teach. If you are new to what that would be like to be a person who lives in cycle, I didn't always know. I didn't start learning till I was 39. So, I don't always put out a dark moon download. I can see that I've got something in my throat. That's good. That's interesting. Logging that. I don't always put out a dark moon download, but I do when I feel one coming through. So many of you know that at the very end of the last lunar cycle, I came into this phrasing, the matriarchy is already here. And I discussed that where I was with that in my last episode called The Matriarchy is Already Here. And I named there that like this isn't going away for me. Like this is the vision. This has always been the vision, but the thing is for us humans is like we can know something to be true. We can organize our lives around something, but until it's fully named, we're not we can't fully relate to it. Like we can't begin to organize framework around it and start dressing it. And what's so fun around language for me is when language begins to house or clothe a thing that was always already there, but we didn't fully recognize it as such. And now, well, now things change because when you can fully relate to it and organize around it as a thing that's there that has clothes on, um, it just moves everything along. And I feel like, what I would want to say to all of you is that before the naming still matters. Keep interacting with the thing that's calling to you. Keep arranging your attention and your devotions around a felt thing that's like talking to you. It's calling you. It's pulling you. It's asking you to come with it. And you don't understand fully what it is. You only have partial information. But you show the thing that you are game, you show the thing that you're up for the mystery, that you feel its power, even though you don't really fully get it, but you know something is there and that's enough for you. You keep going. You dance with what you currently have, and along the way, the language will follow. And this has always proved true in my magical mystical career, is that along the way, I go, oh my God, what it is it's called the emergent no. Or like, oh my gosh, feeling more means feeling more. Or like whatever like my phrases are, right? I like to kind of organize around key phrases. Sometimes I build classes around them. Sometimes I invoke them as like the charms where we're speaking to in like the podcast space or in some space of mine. And in many ways, I see as these constellate into the form of language and framework, in many ways, I see these as like runes in my pouch, like um, each of the framings is like runic to me. I don't really understand how to explain that more than just to say that that feels true. So, yeah, I've been listening in the field, watching what kinds of questions my community is bringing to me. I've got community right now, and have you tried making it weirder? We're having an incredible time. The conversations are extremely sincere, wise, creative, playful, curious. We're really like, we're tapping at really deep things about oneself and one's life. I did a meditation. I wrote a meditation to greet the dying self whose heart is full. And then we did a meditation to greet the younger self who yearns for your wisdom. Um, that's some deep stuff right there. Are we really going there? Why wouldn't we go there? Like to me, branding, when this is like your soul-led craft, like it is the thereist there is. Like, yeah, we go there because that's where the clarity is, you know? And so we've been going to these really deep places. I've been listening and noticing the kinds of questions that are coming up. I've been paying attention to the solar well in Living Emergence, which is my community space. And there's a discussion world that's happening there with the people that are in it, who are the kinds of people who come to my containers. They all are those who ask like really deep, profound questions. paying attention to the kinds of things folks are wanting to hear me talk about or hear each other talk about. I've been noticing things coming up with my family. I've been noticing what's coming up with my witch sister clients who are holding their experience, and I'm with them in a very regular way at like the deepest places of what can come up when you are making big moves and in momentum as a magical entrepreneur, creative leader. I've been listening to what comes up in a blaze, which is my mentorship space, small group, really profound questions there. We name our no's, we summon. Deep yearnings are revealed to self and the group inside that space. That's the kind of thing that happens in my containers is the layers of reveals. It's like there's a theme. I've been meeting with my Emergence Astrology Year 2 students. I've been meeting with my Emergence Astrology Year 1 students. I'm holding a lot of spaces right now, paying attention to what is coming up here because it's all connected. Your life is always revealing to you what the themes are. It's just what's coming up. You don't have to look very hard. So I'm reviewing the data, I call it, the data of my life, the data of what's coming up, the data of like my dreams, that's all included. Certainly the data of like self-talk, like the self-talk that feels expansive, the self-talk that's like, wow, I never imagined that that old thing wouldn't bother me anymore. With the data that's like hard, the data of where I am uncertain of myself and how that reveals itself through the way I speak to myself internally and the ways that I realize I want to love myself more and attune to those parts of me who are really unsure. They're really unsure about what makes me lovable. They just, that's what they reveal themselves as. They reveal themselves as parts of me so unsure about this being in a body on planet Earth where, like, really actually minor things can feel like they're going to remove love from your life. Like you could lose a loved one because you're like bloated. You know, like that's what she believes, those parts of me. We all have those parts, right? Like where we feel the precariousness of our being valued, the precariousness of our being recognized, the precariousness of our being worthy of love. And the kinds of self talk that can come up as we navigate our big dreams and navigate our expansiveness and navigate like, wow, that protector's gotten quiet. Guess I'm free now. Guess I'm liberated. Well, there will be parts of you that you didn't even know you had that show up to be like, okay, well, now I'm going to protect you by, riddling you with self-doubt. And then you get to find out where next to love yourself. And one of the things that I talked about in the matriarchy is already here is how the matriarchy is already here is ultimately a way of relating to life, but starting with yourself, that's teaching yourself that you will not be abandoned, that you cannot be abandoned. You cannot be abandoned when you have yourself. And this is these moments of like, what? Where'd the self doubt come from? Or like, why am I being hard on myself? I thought I had made all these strides. Like, I thought I'd done all that healing. That's a part. It's not the soul self. It's not the soul self. It's not the whole part of us. It's not the whole of us. That's a part that wants to be done with this business of having to take care of ourselves. It doesn't mean there's a problem. It's a part. It was a part that is still holding out for hope that we can stop having to take care of ourselves like this. And the commitment to the matriarchy is already here, is a commitment to surrendering all hope that that day is going to come because we understand that we will always be doing this. We will always be staying here with ourselves until the very end. And only at the very, very end will we really be able to see ourselves in our fullness. In the meantime, we see ourselves partially. And partially, we can see all the parts that are, we can see parts that are joyously expanding, joyously receiving in new ways that our younger self cannot even believe is possible. We see parts of ourselves. This is the partially, the parts that, whoa, like we have grown so much. But also, we will partially also see where we are unsure, where we need to be lifted up by ourselves, where we need to be lifted into our own arms and held, where we need to be lifted into our own arms and cradled, where we need to be heard, to be validated, and to be told that it absolutely is an outrage that that part of us believes these things about ourselves in this world, but also validates that they did experience things that, hey, it makes sense that that's how that was the takeaway, and that we've got them now. We've got them now. All the children, all of them. So, what I wanted to bring to you today, I guess that was a very long prelude. That's very on brand for Dark Moon Download. 40 minutes in, the prelude completes. Um, the theme is self-abandonment in the field. Um, because a repeated theme that has been coming up are questions around self-abandonment. Self-abandonment being the thing that we've been taught to do. Okay. It's really important to separate your fair frustration with where you self abandon with your outrage that you were taught to treat yourself this way. Allow that outrage to be very clarifying and to serve your creative life. You know, I mean, it's an outrage. We're all in it. So, what do we do? You know, like I'm a person who's interested in pathways to agency. Where's my agency? Where's my authority? How can I help myself? And then teaching those things. Because it's like it's like there's the layers of realizing this. There's the layers of recognizing all the time that what we thought was our personality is a pattern of self abandonment that we were conditioned into. And then you're like, oh my God, it's not me. It's the self abandonment thing that I was taught to do. So there's always like more, there's always more layers. So it can be very overwhelming when you're like, I have to get healed. So I've got to figure it all out at once. That's just not going to be the way it's going to happen. So we can relax and surrender into the fact that you will always be doing this. There is no place we're getting to. We are just with ourselves every day, becoming more and more and more aware of where the patterns are and how to hold ourselves through the repatterning, through the repair, the attunement, along the way, noticing, wow, I trust myself more. Wow, I love myself more. Wow, I'm showing up so much more in my power now. Wow, that thing that used to trigger me is now comedic. I mean, that's one of the ways you've come into repair is like things that really used to trigger you, you can just look at and see like, this is actually kind of hilarious. It may still be annoying though, I gotta say. So it depends on the scenario. It depends on the scenario. And sometimes we make things comedic actually, but I think before we've healed and it's sort of a protective mechanism. Sometimes things being funny is protector and it's not from the neutral place of like, wow, the absurdity of human life. I still have to deal with this though. But the skill set around is it a protector or is it not a protector only comes through time. And even then, you can be super skilled and look back on a day and be like, whoa, I was really in my protector today. Okay, that's okay. Like, that doesn't mean you fucking suck as a leader now and like everyone should take your title away. Like, this is part of being a human. And you only get more wise here when you are being a person willing to notice and give yourself grace as you tend to the part of you who was doing that protecting and to the scared child that they believe they're protecting and get them all in relationship with you. Because what it is they just don't see you yet. And we're just constantly in a process of helping all of our many, many selves see that here in present time, we have more tools and we have different circumstances than what they had. And we help them understand that we are also in communication with the future self who has way more wisdom than we have today. And we're passing them things to help us with. And they're going to go get the tools and shift the circumstances for the bold moves that we make today. These are like my basic teachings when you come into my world. If this is all landing fast, when you come into my world, we do this slow drip so that it really begins to land and you feel deep change that can't be taken away from you. I think I was saying something about a theme, self abandonment in the field. So, self abandonment. There's so many layers to self abandonment. But I always like this term because it's kind of like cold water. I am like, what? Like, I don't want to self abandon. So when I understand something as self abandonment that I previously didn't recognize as self abandonment, you got my attention. Like, I've got my attention now because, whoa, I really don't want to do that. So I'm going to be with this and I'm going to really get in there and get under the skin and like in the root system and identify where I'm getting lost to myself. But it's can be very confusing because of shame, for example, but also because we have many selves. So let's say you have a past self who made a commitment to something, and you realize that that commitment is in present time is no longer something that feels alive for you. It's no longer something that you want to be part of. It's no longer giving to you. It no longer feels good. You recognize that staying in it the way that it currently is feeling like self-abandonment because you know that it's true that you don't like this. But what about the commitment you made to your past self? What about that? And wouldn't it be like abandoning yourself if you quit the commitment of your past self? Right. So you can see how um, these things can get confusing when we have many selves. Like this is something that I invite my community to just really experiment with being true, that you have many selves. There's all these younger selves, like there's more than you could ever possibly meet. Maybe we meet them all at once when we die. I don't know. But there's many, many, many. And then there's like a you in present time who is the one who's in communication with a soul type self that's taking you places where you just feel like called into certain kinds of experiences. A lot of the time when we're in that soul self, it's not super logical because we're not doing any shoulds with our soul self ever. If there's a should, it's not soul. So the soul self is taking us and we're like, what are we doing? What? It can feel very confusing and it brings up all these protectors that are like, this is a terrible idea. Like, this is a bad financial choice. So, does this mean I'm like abandoning myself? My soul wants me to do that. But what if I'm abandoning myself because I'm going to like destroy what I've built or I'm going to like be decimated financially or I'm going to be deserted by my loved ones? Like, the question of like which one is abandonment can become very confusing when there's all these different selves, and they're all competing for who we're going to listen to. They're all like vying for us to choose them at the table of discussion around our choices, because our choices is what we actually do, right? It's moves through the throat energetically, whereby we say yes and we say no. We're silent or we speak. We do this or we do that. We do nothing. It's all still choices. And so all of these selves are trying to be like, don't abandon me. Choose me in how you take your next step. Like, wow, it is a confusing thing to be a human. But this this process of ceding our authority to a bigger authority is what I'm positing we were taught to do under the kind of patriarchal system that we're living under. We've been brought up under really anywhere in the world. It's beyond the United States of America. This is like a global situation. Each, I'm sure, very different. So I couldn't speak to beyond my own positionality, but I do have community from all over, and I see us all holding this similar things. And one of the things that I see us all holding is shame. I would say that the shame that we've internalized is that larger authority implanted basically in us. So we will be that authority for that authority internally and then believe that we're the ones fucked up. So unshaming is so important because you are you are in a process of removing that external, unnatural, not innate, not organic voice that triggers feelings from your system so that it's not one of the voices at the table helping you with your choices, right? And now, when we have younger parts that believe in that shame, I don't believe in kicking them out. I know some people do, but they're still parts of me. So I have to cultivate relationship to them, but they just need to learn that they are being demoted. They don't get to sit at that table. They don't get to sit at that table anymore. They can they are part of my life, but most of them, what those protector, shamey voices, what they really want is to go sleep or chill or have fun because they're all actually younger versions of us that we're led to believe that we needed to manage the problem that we are in order to survive here. So most of them, when you really talk to them, they're like very, very happy to let go of the job, but it can take a while to get them to see that. And then another one will pop up, who's not the same, but they have they internalize the same thing. It just feels a little different with this one, maybe a different timing they came on. And so we do it the rest of our lives, not abandoning ourselves. So it's not, there's the not abandoning yourself around not cultivating relationships to all these parts of you. But then there's also the not abandoning yourself, as in don't abandon the present time self, who's the one actually leading the boardroom with your soul, with your guides, taking you into, taking you where your soul wants to have experiences in this life. So I think it's really fascinating to center self abandonment as a way of getting into this. Because what we have when I say self abandonment in the field is what we have in the collective is rampant self abandonment. So let me speak to this. This is the main point of the Dark Moon download. So I've shared in many spaces, probably here, but definitely in my containers, that what we have on planet Earth is a failure of attunement. We have all these human beings walking around, generation after generation after generation, that have experienced severe lack of attunement. And so then there's not like a real sense of what attunement is to then impart it on others. So those who are gifted with an understanding of attunement, whether because they were deeply attuned to by someone, even just one person in their lives, or maybe they're just like naturally gifted at attunement, you may find that people are quite hungry for your gift because it's needed. We're literally starving for it on planet Earth. So if you are good at attuning, there's a whole career for you because people really want this, but they may not have had it articulated to them in a way that helps them understand how life-changing it would be to receive proper attunement. Okay, so when we don't know how to attune to ourselves, we don't even know how to begin this mystery process of identifying what do we really want? What do we really stand for? What are our principles? What do we love? What really is important to us and what is just not that important to us? What do we trust is true? And what do we know doesn't feel true to us? These, I would say, are our edges. These are our edges. In the way I teach it, the fixed signs really help you with these edges of knowing, like, I stand here and nowhere else. I stand here and nowhere else on this. Because we've been taught to merge, to mirror, to bond, to validate one another, and to be terrified of disagreement, there can be this sense that if we don't agree with the preferences, the edges of the person opposite us, say, for example, a caregiver, that we will be abandoned, that we will be, that we are going to be seen as a threat to the person opposite us because they don't have the capacity to deal with what they perceive as abandonment in through our own disagreement of edges. So we were taught then to lose our edges, to dull them down, to become porous, open, capable of taking on the edges of whoever we were with, to be lost to our edges, to not even know that that could be a thing we have, to help us know where we are in time and across from somebody else, to help us know where we are in this ocean of oneness that is also true. We are all connected, and we are each our own separate being with our own edges at the same time. And when you don't know you have edges, you don't know that you could have edges, then you can't trust yourself to tend to them. You can't trust yourself to live by them. You can't trust yourself to know the way because you're the one who's following your own edges. And so then you become someone who doesn't know that you have permission to protect your edges, that you have permission to protect by boundary where someone has crossed into through your edges in a way that is not in affinity with you. It's not okay with you, in a way that you don't want to have someone to have access across that edge. You don't even know that you are given the permission by being born to be the one who is minding the protection of your edges. And so we have these conditions whereby our edges are being trampled on, and we don't know how to describe why it doesn't feel good because maybe we don't even know that we have these edges. So at the heart of it is this, we don't know that we can be contained, that we can be contained and still be in relationship. We can be contained and still be part of communities. We can be contained and still be madly in love. We can be contained and serve our clients. We can be contained. We are here to be contained because when we are contained, then we know how to make the choices before us. Grounded, clear, fortified in being the ones that know our own way. So, what we have in the world is not just a failure of attunement that came first. We have a consequence of that, which is self-abandonment in the field. And when we have self-abandonment in the field, and it's okay because there's going to be levels at which this is true, but we have such mass abandonment in the field, we are very available to be to cede our authority because our authority comes from our edges. So when we don't know our own authority and we don't recognize we have agency, then we're available to join in with groupthink, to just to submit to a larger authority that we have to be obedient to, whether that's actual people in a group or whether that's the authority of the shame that we were indoctrinated into so that we would learn to mistrust ourselves. So self-abandonment is rampant, and this is part of how we have a world where it can feel very difficult to trust people because it's hard to see them. It's hard to see their edges. It's hard to see them clearly. When people self-abandon to be nice, did they think we need them to make us comfortable? It feels really weird in engaging with them because you can't see where they are. Like, do you want this or are you just doing this because you think I need this? Who are you? Right? Like, who are you? It feels so unstable and wonky when you're navigating relationality, whether one on one or in community, where there's not a sense that everyone's rotating around their own way. And they're rotating rather around prescriptions from culture to stay polite, to stay respectable. They're following these rules that were set into place so that we wouldn't follow our own law, follow our own rule and our own way. So it feels very powerful then for me to locate in through this language how more ways I can speak to this. So you'll be seeing that from me is like more ways to talk about this at subtle micro levels. Because again, if it's not spoken to, then we don't really know what we're relating to. And we feel sort of in a fog, you know? And so when you have language that can help you see the thing now, it's so incredible because now you can relate to it in a real way in your real life as you're making the choices that you face every single day and across lunar cycles, across years. So what I've always found to be true, I've been saying this about astrology since I found astrology, saying this about the tarot since I found the tarot. What's so amazing about these wisdom traditions as languages is they create words for things that you always felt were there, but you didn't have a word for it yet. So now when you have a word like Saturn, or you have a word like the Tower, now we can relate to the thing and we can start building a life that organizes around the subtleties of the thing that you're relating to, because anything we're relating to is going to be complex and subtle and nuanced. So we can bring in conversations around self-abandonment in the field through the languages that we love here in the Moon to Moon community and in my containers, my spaces, Emergence Astrology, Living Emergence, Magician's Table, Mystics Making Money. Like we speak astrology, we speak the tarot, we speak energy. And so we can talk about like the thing with massive repercussions in our lives, self-abandonment, through the lenses of the language that helps us to feel and see what am I relating to here. So you'll be hearing more from me about that so we can get into the micro subtleties. Because what we're talking about here is always going to be like how to make living here better. How could this help you live here? How can this help you be here on planet Earth? How can this help you feel more in agency, more in authority, more in pleasure, more in delight, more in power? That's what we're doing through this conversation. It has huge consequences. And I'm inviting you in to join me in everything that's coming from here because my work is changing as I'm stepping into where my soul is taking me through the matriarchy is already here. All right. I hope that you've enjoyed self abandonment in the field. What I would love to know is how are you seeing this show up in your life? What is your evidence? What are you coming to see is true regarding self abandonment, lack of attunement, self trust? The matriarchy is already here. I encourage you to listen to your scopes unshamed to see if there's anything that's really helpful there for you, particularly depending on your rising sign, because we're all having to show up in our fields differently. But there's also these thematic pieces that we all share, and it feels very collective, even as it's personal, because that's just the truth of things. The personal is the collective, and the collective is the personal. So I'd love it if you would share with me what you've been uncovering. What is the data that has been showing up across this lunar cycle for you? What is the evidence in your life around these themes? I would love to hear about it. Whether you want to, if you're in one of my classes, we can talk about it there. If you want to send me a DM, send me an email, info@brittenleroux.com. I would love to know, maybe make a comment with the podcast saying what the evidence is. Put your comments somewhere that yeah, I like that idea because the comment can be public. And I think that evidence is best when it's shared. You know, we like to sometimes keep our evidence private, like we're these like weird humans that no one could possibly understand. But the truth is, and I've been learning this in my community for 8 years now, we're all pretty weird. And it feels a whole lot better when that weirdness is shared. Um, and like it's special and it's not special. Like that's a theme that I've been hearing from some people lately. That to me is very solar Saturn, Leo Aquarius. Like our weirdness is special, but it's not special because we're all weird and both are true and they both want our attention. So yeah, drop it in the comments if you're up for it, because whatever you've been noticing is probably going to help somebody else who may also feel like what they are experiencing is like too weird for the world. But what if it's not? What if your weird is not too weird for this world? What if your weird is not too weird for this world? I'd love to know how that lands. All right. Take care. Take care, take care, take care, take care. I'll see you when I see you next.